Welcome to the Intelligence Briefing Live, What's the Buzz, where leaders and hands-on experts share how they have turned hype into outcome. Today, we'll talk about intelligent automation. And who better to talk about it than a real authority on this topic, Olivier Gomez. Hey, Olivier, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for your time. Thanks, Andreas, for setting that up. The intro looks amazing, by the way, so good job there.
Thank you so much. Hey, why don't you tell our folks in the audience a little bit more about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Olivier Gomez, based in France. People call me OG. I've been in that market for many, many years. What I do is help clients automate using a combination of technology and, more importantly, achieve result and outcome, right? So I typically look at the automation from a business angle, from a return investment standpoint, rather than just looking at tools and technology.
That's awesome. That's fantastic that you take this holistic view and especially take that business perspective really into it. I think that's really key. A lot of times we just talk about tech and that just cuts it short. So for those of you who are just joining our stream, please drop a comment in the chat where you're joining us from. Would really love to see how global our audience is today. So Olivier, what do you say? Should we play a little game to kick things off?
Sure, let's do that.
Perfect. So let's see. This game is called In Your Own Words. So when I hit the buzzer, the wheels will start spinning, and when they stop, you'll see a sentence. I'd like you to answer with the first thing that comes to mind and why, in your own words. So to make it a little more interesting, I'll only give you 60 seconds for your answer before you'll start hearing a countdown. And so again, for those of you watching live, feel free to drop your answer and your why in the chat as well. So Olivier, are you ready for What's the Buzz?
Yes, 100% ready. Go ahead.
Perfect. So let's see. If AI were a car, what would it be? 60 seconds on the clock. Go.
Whoa. If AI were a car, what would it be? That's an easy one. I think it's an easy one. Remember long time ago, TV show called Knight Rider. I don't know if you guys remember that. And the car was called Kit. And at the time, the car had amazing capability, could drive, could speak, it could think, right? And I think this is the perfect, car, because it can drive, it can think. Nowadays we have Tesla, they can drive by themselves, but just add a bit of AI, a bit of brain, and that would be Kit, right? So hopefully in 5, 10, 20 years, we're gonna have a real Kit out there. I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, well within time as well. So let me ask you this then. You know, with Kit and all the stunts and things they were doing already in the 80s, right? One thing is that it's taking, what, 30, 40 years for this to really materialize and for us to see these kinds of cars on the street, or slowly getting on the street right now. But I would say there's also some kind of risk involved, right? When you do pull these stunts, they don't work all the time. And so I know you talk about risk a lot of the time in helping to de-risk the client. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit more about what de-risking the client means to you?
Yes, thanks. This is a very important point. I think it's becoming a key topic on the market, and this de-risking is actually a good news conversation for the client, right? So we talk about risk, people are concerned, this is kind of a bad side of technology. On the contrary here, I think we are reaching a point where the industry is mature enough so that we can start sharing the risk and de-risking the client by having providers, software providers, service provider, starting to take a bit more risk. And I think, this is going to be a much more balanced situation moving forward. We see that already today in other industry where, because we have done it before, because we are starting to have a bunch of use cases, because we start to understand how the technology works, we as service provider, whether you push software, you push services, can start, de-risking the client a bit. so they don't have to basically, put a lot of money up front or commit to a large amount of monthly dollars and, not really being sure of the result, right? So that's really all about that. Is the maturity of the market is going to push a rebalancing of the risk between the provider and the customer.
So how do you facilitate that and help to rebalance that? What's an active role that someone can take in doing this?
Yeah, so I think it's really easy to set up this type of let's say agreement, right? So all we need to understand is the expected outcome, which is nowadays more and more obvious. At the beginning, when we were playing with technology, when we were doing proof of concept, we were just happy with technology, doing what it's supposed to do, i.e., not full of bugs, really delivering, the features that it was meant to deliver. I think now we are reaching a point where we start to understand clearly the expected business outcome. We can frame the business outcome, we can baseline, and then we can see how we are moving the needle on that baseline. It is as simple as accepting that if you are not able as a provider to move that baseline for the client, then you are going to share, let's say, the lack of result. You are going to basically take some of the risk yourself. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah. And so, I heard you say what providers can do, and if I put my old IT hat back on, in good IT fashion, I see many people think about sort of this build by partner kind of thing here again when it comes to AI and automation. So where are you seeing that go, especially when there's more of a risk sharing model that we're moving towards?
Yes. So, I mean, there's been some, some study around that, and typically given the situation, right? So we know that if you are going to do all the work in source, you're going to have a set of issues. Typically, you are struggling to identify and retain talent and retain skills, right, in-house. The market is really difficult today. If you go all the way and only rely on a partner, you are going to lose control. You are potentially going to allow the partner to build some stickiness, which is not what you want. So the typical model is a 50-50 model where you have the best of both worlds, where you can have in-house resources, so you keep control of your own destiny, but you also rely on outside resources, so they can bring the skill you don't have, they can bring the bandwidth you don't have, and they can bring the expertise that maybe you don't have yet, right? So again, we are in a very complex multi-vendor, large ecosystem, lots of tools. And I think it is important that we are able to come up with something that is simple and something that is balanced. So again, I see it as a 50-50 between in-house and external help. I also believe that there is a need to manage the number of partners that you have. You don't want too many, so it's not too distributed. You want to have a bit of a consolidation point so that you don't have complexity to manage all those different moving parts.
Perfect. I think that makes sense, right? Keep a good overview and also see what skills you have and you need in-house and where you can augment that with additional experts or additional help. Maybe going a bit more in that direction, right? On one hand, certainly you can build the bots yourself, or you can ask your service provider to build bots and AI and automation kind of things for you. But I see there's also a trend more towards outcome-based contracts between customers and providers, or maybe it goes even further. What are you seeing there? Where's it moving in terms of commercials?
Where the market is moving, this
Yes.
is a very very interesting point, right? So we've seen the market. So first of all, the nature of the market has evolved a lot. A while back, all we were looking at when looking at automation and intelligent automation was to build some bots, and it was all focused on building and building. I think the market has now evolved into a larger life cycle. So the full cycle now is more around help me understand my opportunity, help me build a blueprint of my, a digital blueprint of my environment, so I can discover opportunity and manage and prioritize opportunity. Help
Mhm.
me build and deploy, and also more importantly, help me run and maintain my environment, because we know that as you build a digital workforce and you start having a lot more digital workforce in your environment, that digital workforce requires a HR type of department, which means running and maintaining those digital worker the same way you would have a need for HR and management to run a human operation team, right? So first of all, the nature is really changing. And then I would say we are going to reach a very similar situation as we had many years ago, when we decided to outsource a whole bunch of activity that was not core to our business. So this is going to also be a very critical time, where on one side you have critical IP, critical piece of content, critical logic that is running your business, that is embedded in the technology that you want to manage, you govern, you want this central point of control that remains in-house, so you don't lose control. But at the same time, you will want to basically outtask and outsource some of the things that is not core to your business, that you want someone else to handle. Typically, what we call the automation operation, which is to run and maintain all those robots that are out there. This is probably going to be a situation where we are going to see, instead of outsourcing and outtasking human work, we are going to outsource and outtask, I think, bot works to partners.
Right. I think that's a really interesting perspective, and thanks for sharing that with us here, because to me that also shows how the market is maturing, how organizations are maturing. It really shows that there's this automation, whether it's RPA, whether it's the early stages of AI, in everything in between, right? In intelligent automation, that is really maturing. It's coming out of these emerging tech departments that are doing some technology scouting and figuring out where can we use it and how can we use it. Especially when you talk about this notion of governance and models between your internal teams and your service providers. It's really great to see that. I'm personally really excited about this, and where this whole thing is going, and how it's shaped up over the last couple of years.
Yes, and if I may add something here, again, the level of complexity of that ecosystem is going to grow exponentially. We are going to have a lot more, let's say, type of tools, on top of RPA, on top of IDP, on top of chatbot, on top of AI algorithm. We're going to have a very large, very complex ecosystem of technology to manage, that will become more and more critical to the business model of pretty much every industry out there. So we are going to need to get help from the outside. And, we used to say a long time ago, back to this analogy, about the outsourcing, we used to say your mess for less. I'm starting to hear your mess for more, meaning it's going to be so difficult to manage that, so difficult to find the resources that will actually have the knowledge to manage all that, that we will be looking for partners that have the knowledge and the expertise to manage that, because it's so critical, right? So again, expect this your mess for more type of situation to happen, because it will be so critical that you will want someone that is really capable to handle all that for you.
Right. Yeah. And what type of skills do you see on the internal side, right? That people should be building or need to build to have an effective conversation and an effective partnership with a provider.
Yes, I think this is probably the biggest point here. I think more important than knowing the tools, more important than understanding the technology, I think understanding the business and the data around the business is going to be the key asset for the in-house team. Being able to gather, collect, clean, and make the data liquid so you can use it is going to be an extremely important skill that only the in-house people will be able to do, because you need to understand the business and you need to be able to be close to, you know, the action and the clients to understand that. So for me, you can rely on an external partner to configure a very specific tool, but you have to have control over your business. You have to have control over your data. You need to understand exactly, you know, how to utilize this data so you can pinpoint the opportunity and know where to apply the intelligent automation ecosystem.
Sounds great. Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit. I know you've been in this space obviously for quite some time, and I'm sure you've seen a thing or two, right? You already speak from experience here. But what would you say has been the most significant evolution in this AI automation space in the last 5 years? In where are you seeing things go in the next 5? What will be significant then?
Yes. So what we've seen over the last 5 years is we went from I'm playing with technology and happy if it works, to I'm taking it very seriously and it's part of my core business strategy. There's enough technology, there's enough proof point, there's enough use cases for this new market segment, because it's a new market segment, to be correctly utilized and to be correctly embedded in the company strategy. If you don't do it, you will probably not survive, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years. So that is a given. What will happen moving forward is that, again, we are going to move away from this you know, technology centric type of conversation, and we are going to move into a business centric type of conversation. We are going to see, you know, the very famous couple, CIO, CFO, the dynamic between the two is going to evolve. We are going to see the CFO getting a lot more involved, because it is now a mature set of technology, and we're expecting, you know, a decent return on those technology, on those investments. And we are going to see, you know, a lot more interesting conversation that are business model related, rather than just, you know, POC or new shiny object type of conversation, right? For sure.
Perfect. And so when you say it's a duo, right, between the CIO, the CFO, what do you say that's the main center of gravity? Are there others that play in that space as well, that have an interest to either see, you know, things become more efficient or cheaper or better, you know, to use the broad cliche terms that we associate with this? So
Yeah.
who else do we need around the
Yes.
table?
So obviously everyone here, you know, is going to be you know, deeply involved, because they are going to benefit from those technologies. So if you are running an HR department, if you are running a operation, obviously, if you are running an, I don't know, finance department, if you're in charge of supply chain, you know, if you are sales, all of those departments are going to need to rely on those technology to be more efficient, to improve not just, by the way, the cost structure, but also everything else. You know, the quality, the speed, the customer satisfaction, even the employee, to improve, you know, retention, because the attrition is going through the roof, right? But still, when we are going to need to get the approval for a large program, the CFO will be the gatekeeper. And when we are going to go into a lot of technology conversation, typically the CIO, right, the technology is going to become a lot more platform type of technology. It's going to be a lot closer to the CIO. It's going to be a lot less, you know, point technology that are deployed outside the IT department. So for me, the CFO and the CIO will be the two gatekeeper of all those programs moving forward.
That's very encouraging, seeing how the two play together, in both from the platform but also the business side, to align these outcomes and drive them. So then let me maybe summarize real quick the 3 points that we touched on. One, as a customer, as a company, right? Don't assume all the risk yourself when you work with a service provider. Look for a balance of risk sharing here. Number two, if you're building, buying, partnering, right? All of that can really take new forms, and it can become an equal partnership in that sense. And then the last one, what I heard you just say on one hand, it's really just the beginning of the journey. We've already come quite far over the last couple of years, but it will be a very strong partnership that you need within your business, and especially between the IT and the finance function. So I think that's 3 excellent points that you made here. So
yeah.
Perfect. So, folks, we're getting close to the end of the show today. Olivier, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your expertise. And for those of you on the live stream, for being excited and learning with us here. So see you next time for another round of the Intelligence Briefing Live. What's the buzz?